Our brains are full of neural maps. Every time we learn something, we create a new neural map in our brain. So for example, you might have a neural map about cooking a meal. You may have a neural map that is around learning French or maybe learning to drive. And in fact, the more you practice that skill, the deeper that map becomes, the stronger it becomes in our brain, to the point where you don't even have to think about it very much anymore. So initially, when you started learning to drive the car, you had to think very consciously about where the gear stick was and where the accelerator and the brake was. But over time, as that neural map in your brain becomes stronger and stronger, those actions and behaviours just become automatic. Now, unfortunately, that also happens with addiction. Sex addiction rewires the brain. It creates a new neural map. And one of the key things that helps us remember those maps is a chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical that is the common denominator in all addiction. It's a chemical that reminds us of the things that are most pleasurable in our lives. So something that triggers dopamine is something that is going to strengthen your neural map. So thinking of perhaps the map of England as a metaphor, imagine Brighton represents your addiction. Brighton represents your acting out behaviour. As someone who's been to Brighton, I know that it's a lovely place. It's very exciting. It's full of lots of different things to do. Somewhere you can lose yourself. Perhaps that's also true of your addiction. London represents everyday life. So you live in London, it's where your everyday life happens. But when you want a dopamine high, you go to Brighton. Now, if you go to Brighton on a regular basis in your addiction, if your acting out has become a regular thing that you do, then that neural pathway in your brain is going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. The more often you drive down that neural pathway, the stronger it will become, the more automatic it will become, like when you learnt to drive a car. So that neural pathway in your brain, that road from London to Brighton, becomes a motorway. It becomes the M23, a fast, easy route to access dopamine. Recovery from addiction means not going to Brighton. And it means not thinking about Brighton either, because we know that when you fantasise, you actually trigger the dopamine pathway in the same way. You need never to go to Brighton again, so that that motorway can begin to get potholed and grow over. It will become weaker and weaker. But instead, you need to develop new roads, new ways of accessing dopamine. So let's think of some other coastal towns. Perhaps Portsmouth is going to represent another way you can access dopamine. That might be going out with friends. Maybe Littlehampton is playing golf. Maybe Eastbourne is taking up a new musical instrument. Maybe spending more time with family and friends. With loved ones is Bournemouth. Initially, when you start trying to access those neural pathways, they're going to be little B roads, and you might find yourself having to go to Bournemouth via Leeds. It may take a long time to get to that point of dopamine, and I'm sorry to say, but it's not going to be quite like Brighton. But if you're tempted to go back to Brighton again, you are just going to strengthen that neural pathway. What you have to do is keep going to Bournemouth, keep going to Portsmouth, keep accessing those other types of dopamine so that those roads can become stronger and stronger and stronger.